Hello, welcome to Pirkei Avos with Rabeinu Yonah. We are on chapter 5, Mishnah number 12. Arba midos betalmidim. There are 4 different types of students. Maher lishmoa u'maher la'abed. Those that are quick to understand and quick to forget. Yotza scharo behafsedo. Any gain that they have is lost. The negative overpowers the positive. Kosher lishmoa ve'kosher la'abed. There are those that it's hard for them to learn something, but once they learn it, it's hard for them to forget. Yotza hefsedo b'scharo. So these people, the benefit outweighs the negative. Mahir lishmo v'kosher la'abed. Someone who can learn quickly and it's difficult for him to forget. Chacham, he's wise. Kosher lishmo u'mahir la'abed. Someone that it's hard for him to learn. U'mahir la'abed, and he quickly forgets things. Zeh chelik ra. This is a bad portion to have. Let's see Rabeinu Yonah. We're talking about the first category, which is someone who could learn very quickly, but he also forgets very quickly. So it says that the negative outweighs the positive because he forgets very quickly what he learns. Who cares that he can understand very quickly? He has a high IQ that he can understand things quickly, but he doesn't have the IQ to remember things. What does it help? Who cares that you can understand something if you don't remember it? Even though such a person, he's always forgetting things, he shouldn't stop learning. Such a person who forgets what he learns, he should still learn, because nevertheless, he has reward for doing what Hashem wants him to do. Hashem wants a person to study Torah. Even if he doesn't have the brightest head, he's not the brightest person, he forgets things very easily, he doesn't remember what he learns. Nevertheless, the effort that he puts into study, even if he remembers nothing, he gets reward for that, and he's doing what Hashem wants him to do. So such a person should still learn. Mashal l'traskel nakov. It's Kamosha Kasanulana. The Rabeinu Yonah brought earlier a parable that a king, he had his workers use a sack, and the sack had holes in it. So even though when they would fill up the sack, all the stuff would come out. But really what the king was doing was to see if his workers were faithful, that even though it was such a pointless task, because the sack wasn't remaining with anything, nevertheless the king wanted to see, will his servants be faithful to him and do the work anyway? So too, some people Hashem created, they don't have good memories. They have trouble retaining information. So nevertheless, they should still study Torah, because that's what Hashem wants them to do. Okay, now the second category was kosher lishmoa ve'kosher la'abed. Someone it's hard for him to learn, but once he learns, it's hard for him to forget. Such a person says she'aschar meruba. The reward that he gets is a lot. The benefit is a lot. Ki ma yafsid b'koshi shmiyaso u'blibo hakosher b'limud yitrach harbe ad yedav yavan advarim ve'achar kein le'yishachach miviv. Because most things, it takes him a long time to learn. That means he has to work very, very hard. Such a person, it just doesn't go in his head, but he works hard. So when he works hard, he remembers it, and then he doesn't forget. Such a person it's very good. It's hard. He has to go through the difficult task, but then he remembers it. Was a yeda harbi moed. So such a person will eventually come to know quite a bit. The im shnei midos ha'elu, with these 2 attributes. L'kulam yeshchar gadol b'limud. But both of these people, the person who remembers a lot and the person who doesn't remember, both of them get a ton of reward for their study, just the effort they put in. Lamanu mizos hamishnah lahaktim hazachron l'shecheach. We learn from here. The Mishnah is, first he's putting someone who remembers and someone who forgets. Kim ein lahem b'mele his parnes, u'biyadenu yecholos leparnes ha'echel levad, u'kiyotze b'zeh she'ein hashnayim yecholim lilmod, magdimin hakosher la'abed al ha'mamaher. Ki b'torech hazeh yesh to'eles gedolah mitorech v'chaver le'inyan ha'yediyah v'chein achar ken yilmo la'acherim. It says the Mishnah is mentioning these things, that if you have a choice, let's say you have enough money to support one Torah scholar, and one Torah scholar he forgets very quickly, and the other one does not forget very quickly. So he says you should support the Torah scholar that does not forget quickly. Nevertheless, though, there's still a mitzvah on each Torah scholar, on each person to study as much as they can. Okay. Now the other category, someone who can pick up things very quickly and he doesn't forget, such a person is wise. Nevertheless, such a person who, he grasps things very quickly and he doesn't usually forget, he still has to review his studies a lot. And he shouldn't rely on his memory, because there's no human being that can remember everything. Unless a person is constantly reviewing and constantly thinking about it. A part of being a person, part of being a human being, is to forget. Right? It's a good thing that we forget, because when a person suffers a tragedy, a person loses a loved one, the fact that we have the attribute of forgetfulness makes it that we're not constantly suffering with those bad memories. But that means, on the other hand, since every human being, even this very wise person, it's very difficult for him to forget, but he can still forget. So what he has to do is constantly review. So all the more so for regular folks, we have to constantly review. Someone who studies and doesn't review and he forgets what he learned is like somebody who plants a field and then forgets to harvest it. Okay, and then the last category was someone who it's very hard for him to learn things, and he forgets quickly. He says this is a bad portion. But even such a person, he shouldn't stop learning. Even a person who it's very difficult for him to understand things and he's always forgetting, nevertheless such a person should still learn, because he has the reward for working hard. On the contrary, when a person works hard to do something, even if he's not successful, he still gets reward for the effort that he put in. And he's working very hard, he'll eventually pick something up, and that's worth it. Now, in this Mishnah, you notice that we didn't call him pious and wicked like in the last Mishnah, because there's no such thing as being righteous or wicked by these types of things. Because a person's wisdom, a person's intellect, his ability to learn, that's all from God. Right? A person isn't more righteous because he's more intelligent. That understanding, the philosophers say that understanding is a gift. Now, every human being was created with a different capacity for understanding. Some people have quicker minds, have higher IQs, lower IQs, but the question is what do we do with that? And the Mishnah is saying no matter how low a person's IQ might be, how quickly he forgets things, nevertheless such a person should still study Torah. Torah is for everybody. Torah is not just for the intelligent, the super intelligent. Torah is even for the people that are not so wise. And even if you constantly forget anything, Rabeinu Yonah is telling us, keep learning anyway, because eventually, first of all, you get reward for working hard, and number two, eventually something's going to stick. Okay, and with that we finish Mishnah 12.